Cool.
Hey,
Hey, babes. I think we're rolling.
we are. How's it going?
Good, good. How you doing?
I'm very well, very well. What have you been up to recently?
I just got off tour a few weeks ago, so I'm back in Copenhagen and just writing.
Beautiful.
What about you? Is that your house?
Yes, it is.
God,
This
I love
is
it.
Nick Cave right here.
Come on.
Beauty. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good in Scotland, enjoying the very breezy weather at the moment, and just doing a couple of different projects. But what a time! What a time it's been.
I know. Yeah, it sounds like it's been full on for you since you and I stopped our project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so good watching you play though. Oh my goodness. Like coming down to London was unreal for that show.
Uh,
Winnie. Mm.
oh, I'm so glad you came down. I hope you had a good time. Did you see we made the prints? Did you get a print?
Yes, I did. I've got all three and they're getting framed, so I'm very excited. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yes. So
Well,
yeah.
I think we should talk about the film that we made. Um, just because I think I'm so proud of it, and I'm so proud of the whole process. The process was amazing. It was so much. It was so much fun, and yeah, maybe we should just chat about it a little bit.
Yeah, let's. I mean, I personally feel like we should just start from when we first like met and like that was just insane. So I basically lived with this EP in my ears for like a week and a half and like just had it on and on and on and then met you in this like little room and it was just like you, myself and Rory and we just sat and like spoke about all the inspirations that you had in this piece of incredible EP that you created. So what a start to like even just kick off a conversation. Like you literally just opened up and just we went there and it was really cool. But I'd love you to like let's talk about that. Like what were your kind of inspirations?
I think. I think some of my it was quite interesting actually because the Benny, the guy that I had produced the EP with,
Yeah.
had told me to watch Anima by Tom York.
Yes.
And I think the night before we met, I watched it, and I just thought it was so incredible that they've done this like full piece performance. It was like several songs that just bled into each other, and it was like one whole moment. And I thought that was so. It was just art, and it was really like I was so inspired by, you know, the amount of work that must have got into that and the amount of how many creatives must have been on board to make that happen and just the vision and all of that. I thought it felt really thought through, and I thought that was really, and also just amazing. It's just great.
Yeah. No,
Um,
definitely.
and so I think that maybe that was actually what made me think that we could do something quite similar with the EP.
Yeah.
That we could, make, because quite quickly we started thinking about it as a one film type moment that we could divide into sections.
Yeah.
Each
Yeah.
song, or pick three songs that would then be a scene, and then the whole point of it was that it would be one film that somewhat would be quite like cyclical in a way.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's how we started talking about it, wasn't it? That like the last scene of one film would like lead into the next.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like it was almost like starting with instead of like even like visual references, it was always like a feeling, like it was like, how do we feel this? Like, how do we sit in this like really intense moment where you're not really looking away or you're not like distracted by something else? It's really like it's honest to what it is. So like with the hands,
Yeah.
like first kind of moment where you just have a piece that explores just two hands having this dance and being like, that's what this is, and let's feel uncomfortable because let's sit through it and really experience this and like almost put ourselves in it, which I thought was like the coolest thing about what we did. It was kind of like similar to how your music can affect a million different people in a million different ways. Like I could almost put myself in your music, so it felt like we should put our audience into our visual, because it was kind of like handing it back, literally, no pun, but you know, like giving back this idea of like, do you see yourself or what do you feel from this? And it's been really, I mean, quite amazing, the kind of response from that video as well, like, you know, that kind of how that film works.
Yeah,
It's
because I
yeah,
remember one of the things that we were talking about quite a lot was, because to me it was quite important that, you know, if we needed people in the video, they wouldn't be the main thing, really. They'd be the vehicle to tell the story.
yeah,
Because I really wanted to try and avoid a storyline with like a character, you know,
yeah,
like, and then they
yeah,
go here and then that happens, you know, because I wanted it to be, you know, the people just to be the vehicle of what was really being said. And that was quite a challenge because we were constantly like thinking, okay, but then we just have what, hands for 3 minutes? Like, are people gonna understand that, you know? Which
I
was
love
quite,
that.
but I loved that challenge because it was like, you had to really think, okay, but how do we get these hands to tell a story then?
Yeah,
You know, and
exactly.
how is that enough? And how can we get the point across without being, you know, very vocal about it, not being like, I love you, you know,
Yeah, right?
saying something without saying anything is one of the most beautiful things, I think, you know, and that was really the
Absolutely.
dogma, I think, for all the films, was to say a lot without really saying a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think as well for you, like you're present throughout every single film.
Mm,
So it's kind of nice to not know it's you at first. Or maybe we could assume it's you, but maybe it's not. But having your hand in there, it's like you're featuring front and center throughout all of it, but we never see your face really until the last moment, which I think's great. Like really refreshing to just, you know, different portraits. I remember sending you a picture of my eyeball, being like, "This is my
yeah,
favorite portrait." You know, like I feel like these things are really kind of cool to explore and just be like, "Yeah, let's give that time and see what we find in it." You know, I think
yeah,
that's great.
I agree. And I think as well, what I thought was quite cool about me, you know, basically cameoing in my own film, I think to me it was quite important to try and do that because I think um, in sometimes I worry that, you know, art is becoming less about art and it's becoming more about the artist. You know,
Yeah,
it's becoming more about their life and what they eat for breakfast and who they are and why they're cool and blah blah blah. You know, and I
yeah,
think I worry that art is threatened a little bit in that sense that we don't have time to sit down and understand something because we just want to have it served, you know, to us.
yeah,
And I think there's a lot of mystery lost in that, you know. And I remember us talking about, you know, back in the day when there was no social media and all these things, you'd have a record and you put it on with your favorite artist or band or whatever, and you wouldn't know who they were. So you could just, you know, you had the luxury of just imagining that yourself, and they could be the best person in the world, you know, and they were
yeah,
your artist. And there's so much magic tied to that for me personally that
yeah,
I
definitely.
think is lost now, you know, or it's becoming less. Everything's just so transparent now, you know.
It is, and it's almost like you can't do any of your own work watching something anymore. You know, you kind of like fed a
Mm-hmm.
way to feel, or you know, like things are edited away to kind of like manipulate something. You know, and I think that's another reason why it was such a like deliberate choice to be like, let's hold on this.
Yeah,
Let's not feed into this kind of like
yeah.
swipe, 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 quick, quick. You know, like it's holding that moment and being
Mm-hmm.
like, let's have your imagination like enter this now. Like, let's keep thinking. I think that's the thing that's so beautiful as well. I think for me, like listening to your music and responding like with what we've done visually, I think it's like letting the lyric and your voice be this kind of almost like skeleton through
Mm.
everything that we've created. It's like the absolute like thing that you're just completely taken by the whole time. You know, like Promised Love is an absolute testament to that as well. You know, like we have this, I mean, what a song, first of all, and then with this clay pot, which is a world, which is a heart, which is a person, which is a feeling, which is, it could be anything. And I think that's great. You know, like I love that when people are like, I think what you did with what you meant with this was this, and you're like, it could be that. It
Except
might not. We don't
that,
know.
that's what
Mystery.
I love, is that you offer the opportunity to, like, you know, if people watch it, they can have the opportunity to think what they want to think. And I think that's how we connect to stuff. You know,
Yeah.
that is how we connect with anything, is that if I get to put a bit of myself in it, I will automatically connect to it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think when it's too, like, here it is, here's what I'm trying to say, it's like you're stuffing something down the throat of people, you know? And I like, you know, we know what it is we're trying to say, you know?
Yeah.
But that people have the opportunity to think about it themselves, I think is just, I just
Yeah.
love when shit makes me think, basically, you know, and I
Yeah.
think that was what we're
Exactly.
trying to do with this project as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the best.
And I'm so proud of, like, all the textures was really something that we spoke about so much, because when I produced the project I Could Swim with Benny, we
Mm.
constantly spoke about textures, and it had to sound like you would feel it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally.
Like, if we would have some sounds that would feel like someone was doing this, or like, you
Mm.
know, it was like, it was so important to us with textures. And we spoke about that straight away, and you understood that so well. I want to say that as well, you know, creating this with you has been kind of wild to me, because it was, it's kind of crazy when you, because I'm good at talking in, like, feelings, like I imagine this is what it feels like, you know. And you've just been so brilliant at, like, really understanding what I meant with that, and then coming up with, like, the perfect visual world for that, you know.
Oh,
Has been, you know, just, it's so amazing to work with you. I just want to say that.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you. And likewise, like massively
Yeah.
insane.
But
What
that's the
like
thing as well, you know, the whole thing was just so much fun, because when you do it with people that think alike, it just becomes like another fucking thing, because you can walk around and having it all in your head, and then when you meet someone
yeah,
and they completely understand what you're trying to say,
absolutely.
you know, it's kind of a wild experience.
I thought it was great as well. I mean, the crew on this project
Yeah.
were incredible. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we brought our friends in.
Yeah.
Just we just had a really good time because I think we were in a group of people that really genuinely supported and cared for each other. You know, there was like a lot of love and like without sounding cheesy, I mean, it was really kind of genuinely like people gave a shit. And it was really lovely to be so inclusive with that and actually have these conversations with everyone. You
Yeah.
know, like it was kind of like no matter what was happening on the set, you kind of had these little bubbles of like, wow, this means this to me, or like
Mm.
that sound is this, you know, like the fact that you hadn't even played like the piece of music to
Mm.
your friends before they arrived, and then having that kind of initial reaction again, it all just feeds back into this kind of honesty of like being like, I feel like this,
Mm.
and how do you feel about this? And I
Yeah.
feel like my favorite moment was definitely when we were shooting. I mean, the whole project was fab, but like the second day when we were shooting I Could Swim,
Mm.
and we had everybody sat on the chairs and we were stood up, and we just had this conversation where we spent about half an hour just talking about the feeling of dancing alone and as if a person was still there
Mm.
and missing that, and that liquid light feeling of just, you know, words don't do it. You know, that's why like movement was so great, because we just kind of, you know, like kind of made noises and everybody just kind of moved with that and responded so beautifully, and it just felt really kind of organic and like that was texture, you know, it was like you could feel the feeling. Like, and I think that was so brilliant about that particular kind of one shot take that we were doing, because it
Yeah.
was all about the little imperfections and the humanity of it, really. Like,
Mm. And that's
very
the
fun.
thing. I think that's really, you know, what I really wanted to achieve is to have that humanity and that, like as you just said, like the initial actual reaction.
Mm.
Because we intentionally made, especially like Promise Love, also End of Me, are very like simple,
Yeah.
and they're very like long still moments. It's not a lot
Mm.
of flash. There's not a lot of tempo. It's really just almost like painfully long scenes.
Yeah.
And I love that we did that because it was so important to me that, because it was, I really wanted to, I love that space. I remember we spoke about that back then as well. That space where it's almost a little bit uncomfortable. You
Yeah.
spoke about it as like the gas leak. I love that. I think it's so fascinating. I think I said to you back then when we met, like, I'm so fascinated with that moment when you're in a conversation with people and the room goes quiet and
Mm.
everyone has that internal conversation with themselves where they're like, should I say something to like fill the,
Yeah.
that moment to me is so fascinating
Yeah.
because it's a little bit uncomfortable and but there's something there that I think is really very interesting, and
Yeah.
we kind of wanted to bring that in, like the nerve of that into
Yeah.
this world, of having long shots and not talking too much, because that's another thing about these films. We didn't talk too much about what we were going to do.
Yeah.
We showed up, I had my friends come down and they were the dancers. Your
Yeah.
roommate was a dancer, and your great friends from Scotland was the stylists, and they were fucking amazing. um,
Yeah.
but before arriving, I hadn't told anyone what they were supposed to do. They didn't know. They didn't
Yeah.
know what the film was going to be about. They didn't know what they were going to be doing. As you said, they hadn't heard the songs. When Grace and I did the whole hand stuff, she didn't know until half an hour before really what we were going to do.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
she had,
That's so
exactly,
good.
and I loved that because
Yeah.
it was kind of like, to me, it was also keeping the nerve in the room
Yes,
when we
exactly.
were recording it, because if it's too rehearsed, if it's too perfect, if it's too, you can see,
Yeah.
I think, you can see human stuff. It's like in music. If you keep re-recording and re-recording, all the human moment that could have happened, that accident is gone.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with those like things, and for me, it was about keeping as much as that in to make it like as human as it could be.
I love that. I also I love the fact that I didn't know what anybody looked like apart from their hands, because we were sending like pictures of hands to each other, being like, "Oh, that's a good hand. I'm loving that hand. Look at those freckles, Grace. Oh my god!" Like, it was so funny. Like, that was there's so many like bits of this that were just so fucking funny and brilliant, like, because
Yeah,
it needed to be that though. And I was like, but we don't need to see their faces, that's fine, because let's look at the hands. And then
yeah,
so meeting all this collective that we put together was brilliant, because it was like not only great hands, but the conversations that we had, these were really, you know brilliant, bright,
yeah.
gorgeous humans. And it just was like, yes, like, look at this group. Like, when we were in like the green room, and
Mm.
we had like Troy, Colette, and Furman, had like Scottish crew in there, and like Maddie and makeup, and it was great. Like, it really felt, yeah, like, refreshingly
Yeah,
exciting for that. And yeah, the nerve in the room, I think there was there was like a couple moments where we could definitely lean into that, like,
yeah.
especially with like Promised Love. Um,
Oh God.
Funny when some things are very simple,
Yeah.
and extremely technical,
Yeah.
Like I think that was like a great thing to be able to share with like a full room of people,
Yeah.
because that was so funny when we have like the motion control set up and we have this like bucket to like test with for the vase and all this stuff going on, and we're
Yeah.
trying to like sync it up and make sure everything's good with the phantom camera and the
Yeah.
timing and all this stuff. And it kept missing, and we were like, right, okay, and then going back, and then the one that got it, it was almost like the room was silent when we
Yeah.
were taking these shots,
It was.
and everybody just didn't breathe for like the whole time when the first vase went up, and there was you couldn't hear anything. It was
Yeah.
like definitely silent, and it was so funny because I was kind of looking around and I could see everybody was kind of like, okay, right, we're gonna go for the first take, like holy shit,
Yeah.
and like, and it missed, the first one missed, and it was like, oh, okay, right, here we go again then, right, okay, looking at the vases that we had, which were limited, like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
and the second, and I remember it was the second take, and we got it, and everybody in the room went from being like completely still to like, woo, like just freaking out, and I was like, this is brilliant. Everybody was
Yeah.
so excited about this vase. I was like, yes, this is what it's about. Like
Exactly.
everybody was interested in that. It was great.
It was great. You could really feel like the air was so thick in that room because we had what 4 vases or something, and that was it. So we needed to make sure to like explain the camera that we used for that vase clip was so
Yeah,
techie. Like
yeah,
there was like an engineer just working that camera, right?
yeah,
And because it's one of those really like fast moving cameras to just fly around, which is kind of great
yeah,
because when you look at the you know the shot, it's minutes long, but in reality that's how long it takes for a vase to fall. That's
yeah,
how long it took, you know, filming it and was flying around the room, but setting it up took all of the first day because it was so incredibly complex, you know, and it had to just be there. So there was a lot of like nerve in the room for that one. That was really
yeah. I mean, the fact that we shot everything over 2 days was pretty great. You know, like 3 videos, 2 days.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. That was wild as well. But also like it's just crazy because you don't actually think about, for example, End of Me. You know, that's 2 shots, right?
yeah,
So we
yeah,
went for it twice. So that was like this beautifully backlit table that
yeah,
were, you know, arts and crafts had made. They were great, you know. And
yeah.
it was basically, I think you said, because we didn't rehearse, Grace and I. It was just at all of
Any,
that thread. Like what was it called? Thread?
oh yeah, yeah. It was like it was almost like a kind of Hessian. I'm sure Furman would be like, it's not that. It was beautiful,
Yeah.
natural, and diverse. So yes.
But that's kind of wild as well. I remember watching it back. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Because it was literally Grace and I in
Yeah.
silence. There was no music. Stood on each and, you know, at the table. And then just having you shout in like a thing, like, go, quicker, faster. And we just like pull all this stuff around. And it would take like 15 seconds, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Where we'd go in and you know touch hands and go out. We'd do that twice, and that is the End of Me video, which I think is wild because it
Yeah.
literally looks like Grace and I are having a conversation with our hands, which I
Absolutely.
think is so crazy because it's literally in total 30 seconds
Yeah.
of like doing that, and there you have a story. You know, I thought that was wild, and then I just
Yeah.
love how at the end
Oh,
of
absolutely.
I Could Swim, how it ends with me coming back to that table,
Yeah.
you know, and how that's so like cyclical, you know, it's the falling in love, falling out of love, and then figuring it out. That's you know,
I love the like inversion of that as well. Like the fact that we started like on the hands, and it was we're so close and we're in it and we're in the story, and then we kind of are moving back and the vase happens and that kind of middle, like the heart,
yeah,
everything kind of explodes and breaks, and we move then into you, and then we move back again, and the last shot is kind of the furthest point. You know, we're
yeah,
looking through the top of the studio, and
yeah,
yeah, and everything kind of resumes and keeps going as before, but different. And I just think, yeah, there's such a it's quite like poetic, like in the way of like how that kind of came together. And I think, you know, it was definitely deliberate, but I like how we also shifted from like the kind of robot arm and the very still, direct, very clean shot into 16 millimeter handheld at the end. You
Yeah.
know, like our DOP, amazing DOP, he just nailed that. You know, like we just wanted to go and almost like give it back to the hands. You know, like we're now being held through this world that we're going in, and yeah, everything comes back
Yeah.
round. You see, and yeah, it feels really felt good. I remember like when we did that and we watched it back and we were all just sat there like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is cool.
It was so great. I had such a good time filming, those film like that film. And to me, it was like quite a special experience because one, I've never really done that before, and two, that could have been something that would have freaked me out. But
Yeah.
because it was such a great team and because there was such a good understanding of what I was trying to do and working with people that understood that, I I was just able to like enjoy it. And there were many moments where I just stood back and like watched people do whatever they were doing. Just like, I'm very privileged and lucky I get to do this. And this thing that was in my head is now a lot of people are here trying to execute it with me.
Yeah.
And that was just very, very beautiful. And
Yeah.
I'm so proud of the film. I think it's great.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. Yeah. It's been honestly the biggest privilege to work with you. And it's, yeah. I mean, to be that inspired by, I mean, I was completely blown away by the EP before even meeting you. I felt like I knew you before I met you. It was crazy. I was kind of like, whoa, okay, okay.
Oh,
And yeah, this entire project's just been, yeah, so beautiful. And I feel I just want to kind of almost repeat what you said. I feel like the people that we've managed to bring together with
yeah,
this and trust with this and
yeah,
how much they trust us with it as well has been really special. So yes,
definitely.
all the love.
All the love, and I hope we'll do much more together.
I know I'm excited for next projects. It's
Next
gonna be
time,
cool.
well, it's out now, I think, and now you can watch it in full. And I'm actually quite excited to watch it in full. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
it'll be it'll be great. Well, it was so good to chat with you, Riri.
Yes, and you,
And
and I will see you very, very soon.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, can't wait.
All right, love you.